Welcome back to the Quick Save Podcast. My name is Josh.
And I'm Alex.
Today, we'll be looking back at how we got to this point in the podcast. That's right, no games, no news today. We're taking a year in review here. We're going to look at all this here. We're a solid number of episodes in, and we want to reflect before our big kind of end-of-the-year seasonal specials. And so you can think of this kind of as our version of a clip show. Not too many clips or Alex will literally, strangle me for the amount of editing it'll take.
I'm already crying inside.
Let's get right into it, and we'll go back to where it all began.
Straight into episode 1, where at this point in the podcast, we just said, hey, let's do a podcast.
Yeah, you were like, hey, I really want to do a video game podcast. And I'm like, I've been wanting to do a podcast for a while. I thought about doing a solo podcast, but I don't know, man. I've done some solo streaming on Twitch and talking to myself.
It's hard.
It gets old quick. Yeah, I don't know how people do that, man. I can't. Without an engaging chat audience there, I go crazy.
I literally think we were at your place. I think it was 11 midnight, somewhere around there. And I was getting ready to head out, and I'm like, hey, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but you just want to come over next weekend and do this?
Yeah.
Start our podcast.
So it began.
And that's literally all it took. It was just me going to you and just being like, hey, come over next weekend. We're going to do it. Our name, ideas of, for recording, and
we bickered for a little bit about the name. We were trying to
that was rough.
There was a long list of names. We were gonna call it, what was the Phoenix Wright name? Detective A-Go-Go or whatever.
Yeah,
something
Detective
like that.
A-Go.
It was Detective Doo-Wop.
Boogie, what was it? Boogie something?
There we go. It was Detective Boogie Woogie.
There we go.
Yeah, we're gonna call a podcast Quick Save Boogie Woogie.
No, I think our first name that we really agreed upon was Save Point Podcast. And in the first episode, I believe
keen-eared listeners will, hear us call it that in the first episode there.
And then we found out that, hey, that's already an active podcast, and so we were scrambling for another name. It's tough,
right? I mean, the best time to plant a tree is today, so it's kind of like a lot of the good things we would want to take were already taken up by. I mean, there were some. I think maybe it was No, it wasn't Quick Save. It was Save Point. Save Point had 3 podcasts, and 2 of them were defunct and not posting anymore, but one still was. So we were like, all right, well, we'll back off because we don't want to
And then you were talking about, what was it called, Scum Save Podcast or something like that?
Oh yeah, Save Scum. Yeah.
Save Scum Podcast.
Yeah, no, we weren't going to say podcast. It was just going to be we are Save Scum or something, like a band or something like that.
Yeah.
Because save scumming is kind of like when you in Skyrim where you quick save, kill all the people just to do it and then reload, or save scumming to
you're in the middle of boss fight, every couple seconds you're quick saving.
Exactly. Try and cheese some boss fights stuff so that'd be save scumming would be to abuse saving.
I know we were talking about whether or not we were going to add podcast to the name.
That was a long thing. I was like, I don't like podcast. I don't like saying weird blank blank podcast. But because I was I think it's cooler if we just say we're quick save. I think that's, and I still kind of hold that where I think that's cooler, but it's also less practical for us to say if I walked up to someone and I was like, oh yeah, I'm with Quick Save, they'd be like, what? I'd be like, but if I'm I'm with Quick Save Podcast, I'd be like, oh, I know what that means.
Yeah. Maybe clarity, one day when we're
clarity versus coolness,
Maybe one day when we're real big superstars, we'll be I'm with Quick Save, and the people
we'll still say Quick Save Podcast, but all the real fans would be like, whoa, they're Quick Save, and we'll be like, hell.
Or they'll really shorthand us and be like, there goes QS.
QS, yeah. When the merch when we do merch drops, we'll have QS merch. It'll be great.
But as I was saying, our name ideas, even our equipment was thrown together at best.
It was last moment,
haphazard. Totally didn't think
what's
it through.
Laying around. Let's put something together.
And our introduction was the focal point of starting the news episodes. Was an interesting choice. Looking back,
it's kind of starting a podcast. You can't just be we're just gonna do an episode. Yeah. And they'll figure it out, right? I feel we have to have kind of hey, this is who we are. This is why we're doing it. You gotta have a thesis statement, right? You gotta people. If we just do it, people are gonna be well, why should I care? But if we start being hey, this is us. This is what we're gonna talk about.
Here's why we're qualified.
Exactly. Here's my street cred. Then people will at least be oh, sure, I get their concept.
So starting off, Josh, you own a Blue Yeti. You brought it over. And that we literally plugged it into the computer, I think, and we're just
and we just
record.
Both used it.
Yeah, we both used one.
Both of us on one mic.
That was rough. That was real rough. And what was worse is that, like, I was like, oh, we'll just sit in the couch, talk towards the mic.
Yeah.
Bad idea, because
Really
that audio
idea.
quality was
Really bad idea.
garbage.
Here's the thing, though. Do you remember what it was like reading that script? So for everybody who doesn't know, now we pull back the curtain here. There's like a kind of rough bullet point script that we kind of follow when we're talking about this stuff. So otherwise, if there was not a bullet point script, you would just, I know we say and a lot. You don't know that because Alex edits it out all the time.
So many hours.
If you heard an unedited episode, we would just go It's all the time. If we didn't have bullet points, it would be that times 10.
It would be all
never
over the
stop.
place too.
Every sentence would be predicated by an or an and it kind of already is like that. So, but it was glorious reading the script off of the like big TV screen.
Yeah,
it was really glorious just looking and seeing it, and like being able to follow it like that.
I think if I remember correctly, that our first script was written on Notepad. It wasn't even typed up on Word or anything. It was just on Notepad.
Yeah, we were like scrolling down as we're going to read the Notepad.
So our main goal in the episode was just record one episode and see how we felt about the whole thing. There was nothing more than that. We were like, let's pick news because like it's not like a huge topic, and if we mess it up, it's not a big deal.
It doesn't require a lot of like pre-planning.
And I had Audacity download to my computer that I had downloaded years ago, and Audacity is a audio editing software for free that you can download yourself if you want to give this a try. Go out and start a podcast, right? And I just like amplified our sound, edited it up a bit so it didn't like sound like total trash. And I was like, good to publish.
It's a podcast, baby. Ship it. Send it to the cutting room floor. We did it.
When it comes to games, though, you have to start somewhere, especially in like skill-based games like that. Like, a great example really is Guitar Hero. Mm-hmm. Everyone starts out easy. They have to learn how to play, and eventually, if you keep just practicing, you'll get to expert. And Tony Hawk's very much like that. You have to work on your balance. You have to know where to start, and you just develop into RPGs at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, there are definitely a lot of movement things you have to kind of remember for that, for sure.
Most of the editing was painstakingly done by hand, and I mean,
we didn't have any shorthand. We didn't know any.
We didn't know that there was tools to use.
Yeah, we had to do it all manually.
I mean, honestly, we just winged it and hoped for the best. That's really where we were at that point.
Well, clearly you've set us up for such great heights here. Moving on to episode 2 is where we experienced our first cataclysmic nightmare loss. We're using the Blue Yeti. Finally, we decided, okay, no more sitting on the couch. We got the table out. Now we're talking like face to face.
Our audio quality went up by like
50%. Yeah, absolutely. We're still unaware. We don't know how Audacity works literally at all. Literally, I think we had to YouTube tutorials on like how to use some of the basic tool. We're like, how do we do this in Audacity, man? Like, us frantically Googling like second track Audacity, how to like add a second track to put in like the intro and the outro. Yeah, so we're soldiering on, even though we still pretty much have no clue how to use the software that we're using. But we had created a template, and our big first step was having that working template model that we were going to use going forward. So establish something, essentially look at it and say, this is what a normal episode's going to look like, so we can kind of just repeat that going forward.
And honestly, that hasn't really changed. We haven't really edited that template since we made it.
Pretty cut and dry. I mean, it has all the things we want it to have.
And then obviously we like add new things in if we need it here and there. But I mean, like for the most part, it's just a bare bones like ABC thing.
A skeleton of a thing that we essentially can just kind of fill out depending on the game and kind of go in depth about what we need to. We had a great recording session for episode 2. Things were looking great. So we played Burnout 3 Takedown. It felt great recording it, but then the next day Alex is taking a look. He's editing and realized, something weird happened. Half the episode is a garbled nightmare mess.
Yeah, it was completely like unsalvageable. Like it was like we're talking now, and it was like it was just after that.
yeah, just like audio glitches, and I think it was because the cable or something.
I think the cable was like loose or something.
It was like stretched too far or something like that, so it was barely making connections. The whole thing was weird, but it ended up a digital gargled mess, and we were defeated. We had to decide, okay, should we just skip this episode, do something else, or should we re-record literally half the episode and press on? And we chose to re-record it. You added a funny car crash sound.
Yeah, I put a big car crash right where our thing happened.
Hoping you're not listening to that while you're driving. You give you a damn heart attack. We recorded it, spliced it together, and kind of helped us learn some editing chops a little bit.
It really, I took the both of us to really kind of figure all that out.
Bridge over troubled water, yeah, kind of situation presented itself, and we had to improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Let's talk about episode 3, though.
Please.
Because guess what we were finally starting to do? We were finally starting to spread our wings in this episode. This was the final recording we needed to complete our lineup before we uploaded.
Yeah, you wanted to have a couple in the chamber so that way we could record, or we could just release. That way if somebody wanted to listen, instead of just being one episode, and
they would have a few.
They'd have a couple, so that way, if you found the podcast, you could see, there's 3 episodes, I'll go listen to all of them, right?
And we had done so much to get it all set up and ready. I think the week before we were going live, we ended up working on the podcast right after we both got off work.
Yeah.
I think I told you, like, hey, Josh, come over. We have a lot that we need to get done. I need you to come over an extra day this week.
And that kind of hasn't changed either. Sometimes we're, hey, we're going to, Tuesday or Wednesday work this week, we're going to figure something out. But so moving forward, episode 4, boom, we're live, Goblin Commander. First 3 episodes have been live for a week. We're working on Goblin Commander, playing it. Started tons of inside jokes that we still return to. Kremblo blesses us with his presence at times. Our insatiable hunger, we want to know. There's no information on Goblin Commander. If you or a loved one knows anything about Goblin Commander or the development of Goblin Commander, please let us know.
Email us. Call the hotline.
Still an ongoing hunt. Handwritten letter coming your way if you have information. That offer still stands and probably will stand until we die, probably.
Or until someone actually sends us like Goblin Commander info.
Here's the thing. I just think it doesn't exist. I don't think the people who developed Goblin Commander remember anything about developing Goblin Commander.
Look, if we actually got like an email or someone sent us a letter or some weird thing like that about Goblin Commander.
Like a ransom note.
Yeah.
I have information, like cut up magazines. I have information about Goblin Commander. Meet me on the corner of Blockley and Boulevard, and we'll discuss Goblin Commander.
I'd dedicate a whole episode just to that one letter. I could easily talk an hour about it.
But yeah, Goblin Commander was great. Kind of stepping into the, having a little fun with it, stepping outside of the standard kind of formula.
Yeah, we were starting to feel more comfortable with the podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah. Now, let's get into episode 5. This is where things take a turn for the better.
Yeah, it was a huge leap for the better. Episode 5, we finally sunk money into this. Before
That's when it
we
became
had
real.
to put a dime.
When we put money into it, then it became like a vested interest. It's like a debt. Now we have to pay it off. We have to turn this into something actually.
We sunk our money into the show and finally bought some actual mics and a mix board. We decided using on Tonar XLR microphones in a studio kit for the both of us. And then we have a Fenix Pro PRX 100 as our audio mixer. So with our sound...
So if you want to go out there and really have the full quick save experience, we just gave you the full list, baby. Yeah. Buy all the equipment you want.
We've had guests come over and they're like, holy crap, you guys
they're like,
serious.
This looks pretty professional. We're like, thanks. This stuff wasn't like insane expensive, but it looks kind of professional.
It looks nice at least. I mean,
it does look nice.
They give you like little ties so you can like tie up like your cords so they're not dangling all over the place.
The whole concept here is if you walked in here, people would be like, wow, looks really nice. We'd be like, yeah, we got no fucking clue what we're doing.
True.
It looks great though.
But with our sound vastly improved and us feeling really good about recording, going forward seemed like it was the dream. Like we could really keep going with this.
And we sure did. Episode 6 and 7, we were still going for it. We played Brink, which is, Alex, one of your childhood games.
Yeah, a childhood game that I still dearly hold close to my heart.
Hey, we didn't get a ton out of it. That's okay.
No,
was
it did not hold up well.
Very short episode. There was not much to talk about other than how it was not amazing. But it was still fun to play and talk about. Episode 7, we talked, it was a big news episode, huge news episode. Talked Kingdom Hearts 4, new Lego Star Wars, and a controversy as well. A crazy episode there.
You wouldn't believe who it was. You know, I, G,
and who else, I wonder?
Yeah, who else? After that, we get to episode 8, and we finally hit the sweet spot. A game we both loved.
So, a new game we both loved, because I feel like this kind of hadn't happened before. We'd mainly been playing games that we either had experience with or had played before. I played Burnout, you played Brink, stuff like that. Now we finally hit something where we're kind of expanding our own comfort zone and playing something that neither of us have really played much.
So, and that game was Okami.
Beautiful.
What a game.
Beautiful game.
What a game. This was the first game that we reviewed that we both felt very passionate about. My love of the game came from like early childhood memories of seeing it in store and everything and playing the demos that, you know,
yeah,
were
I remember
out there.
it made waves when I was a kid, for sure.
And then Josh, yours was this newly found intense appreciation that really made the episode fun and exciting to do.
Wind Waker take notes. Okami's got it nailed down over here.
Even now, talking about, all I really think about is the fact that, like, man, I should go throw that back in the PS2. I should go complete that game.
I have it on the top of my to play pile on like my PS5, PS4 stuff, and every time I look at it, I'm like, man, I should really go back to Okami.
And like the best part is that this was also around the time that we found out about voice focusing effects in Audacity.
Yeah, we did. I think we did one thing before. It was the Cremblo bit, but beyond that, we didn't mess around with it a ton. But this is when we really started messing with the like voice effects a lot.
Here's my dirty laundry for the podcast. I had mentioned right away in the beginning of this episode that I had downloaded this on my computer, from forever ago. I think I was running on like version 1.1 or something.
You were like 15 versions behind or whatever.
And, like it's on like version 3.16 something now.
You installed the new Audacity and it looked like a modern computer program and not something that was made for like Windows 2000.
Yeah, it looked like we were running off like Windows XP stuff, and then like we updated. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a whole new world. But we downloaded a program for Audacity that within the software was called Compressed Dynamics. We affectionately call it Crystal Dynamics in lieu of the wonderful Tomb Raider developer, where we were able to clear up our audio even more and tune into our voices. So that's why like around this time you hear our voice quality go up again from
it's
where
because
it was.
of Crystal Dynamics and IDOS. Thanks for the Tomb
Yeah,
Raider
thank you,
franchise.
IDOS, Crystal Dynamics. You did us so much work. Crystal clear voices even.
Yeah, Crystal Dynamics, Crystal Clear Voices. Final Fantasy, the Crystal Dynamics bearers.
Why don't we talk about that episode that I feel like everyone just forgets?
Episode 9.
That's right.
Mergers, buyouts, and acquisitions. Yeah, this was kind of, I felt like a really big news episode for us because we really put the work in on this one. This is one where we did a lot of research, more so than normal, I feel like, into not just like news, not like, hey, this game's coming out, whatever, but into like just the gaming world in general. That's when I was talking about how Embracer Group was buying up, funnily enough, we just mentioned them buying up IDOS and Crystal Dynamics, or at least getting a bunch of licenses, like IP licenses.
Tencent was doing stuff even.
Yep. And so a lot of that stuff you'll still see, like, remember that name, Embracer Group, that they're still buying things and making acquisitions. Like, you're going to see a lot more of these, like, holdings companies buying game companies just to have the rights to video games. So that way, here's this remake of a game that has come out in 50 years. I mean, that's literally THQ Nordic, like the THQ studio disbanded however many years ago. THQ's Nordic, literally their whole deal is like, we're just going to exactly remake, like graphically upgrade the old games. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom rehydrated. It's literally just the PS2 game, but with a fancy skin on it. It plays exactly like the PS2 game. Like, you're going to see a ton of stuff like that, and it's still making waves in the news. Like, I saw recently another article about Embracer Group buying some stuff, so it still is important.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I have a bunch of friends that'll talk to me about games, and they know that we do the podcast, so they're a little bit more interested into like the things that we look into. And they'll be like, "Man, I wonder what's happening with the studio." I go, "Oh, they got bought out by Embracer Group." And they're like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, all that happened. I think whenever episode 9 came out."
Right.
And they're like, "You did an episode on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, we talked heavily in depth about everything.
Kind of literally our job in some ways." So
It's just so weird, like how it like that like during that time too. We had IGN
controversy.
IGN controversy, but they were talking about it. G4 Games was talking about it. Kotaku was also on it. There's just like it was in the news everywhere.
It was big news.
Yeah,
I mean,
and like all these other places are talking about it, and then we release ours, and it's just like, man, we got like nothing.
Pretty much. Well, that's also the thing is like
I get we're small, but man, that was like nothing.
It was such big news just because what they were also they were getting like 60 IPs or something from Crystal Dynamics. So it's like they were just straight buying IDOS, but they weren't buying Crystal Dynamics, but they were like licensing stuff from Crystal Dynamics or something. So that brings us to episode 10. Was episode 10 released as episode 10?
Episode 10 was released as episode 10,
but it came after like
it came
12
after
or whatever?
12.
Yep.
And the reason for that is the fact that it was a huge setback for us in so many ways. This was the first time we missed an upload date, and the reason for that is that we completely lost this recording.
Something broke. The little gremlins, Kremblo ate the data, and we couldn't recover this.
I mean, we were still figuring out our mixing board. We record straight off of it, and somewhere between the mixing board and the computer, data just got lost, and it was rough. Because we had recorded, I think, honestly, like an hour and like 15-minute episode from that.
It was a lot.
It was huge. Defeated again, we talked about skipping the episode because, man, this was like a real gut punch.
Right? This wasn't half an episode. This was the whole freaking thing.
Yeah, a big, huge undertaking. And we just decide, do we honestly skip this one, just go and do something else and just say, hey, no podcast this week, guys? Or do we double down? And we chose the latter. We doubled down hard. We went so far that I'm proud, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce the beginning of the Quick Save podcast skits.
Hey, what's up, nerds? It's me, Beast.
Is that a motorcycle?
Oh, it's my devil cycle. I ride this thing everywhere I go. You guys think I was set raw riding up over here?
I mean, you kind of look like
Yeah, I'm his evil shadow, so we look pretty similar. But yeah, I think I could probably take him. I think I'm more powerful than him. But I just wanted to tell you guys, it's set raw speed corner.
Oh, so we're gonna go fast?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go fast. You guys are gonna talk about these facts here. Let me drop off these sheets. Alright, I think that's all of them. Alright, you fellas have a good one. I'll see you at the tournament. I gotta go fight Shaquille O'Neal right now.
Yeah, thanks for just throwing them all over the ground.
Yeah, no worries. I thought it'd be like a fun game for you guys. Welcome to the Legion. I'm gonna go defeat Shaquille O'Neal now.
Wow, that guy really pissed me off, if I'm being honest.
Wow, what a piece of work.
Yeah, this is where we started doing like the cold opens and, portraying this bit where you're like, hey, Josh, I have a good idea for the podcast. And then I'm like Ebenezer Scrooge. And
yeah, you're the mean guy.
Get back to work, lackey. No, we won't do your idea. It was a ton of fun recording.
We take some time like playing those things out too. Like it's not just like off the cuff.
It would be so much worse if we had to make it up on the spot. That would really not be.
But I think we spend like probably an hour each time we do a skit talking about what should we say.
30 minutes planning out what the kind of general script should be for it. Yeah.
Here's a joke. Oh wait, I think this is a better joke. Let's go this route.
Yeah.
Especially episode 23, we just did a skit. We had to really walk our guest through that one.
Yeah, he was like...
he was not for it.
We're like, you gotta be like this. He's like, I don't know. We're like, please? Please be like that? Speaking of guests, We'll talk about episode 11. One of my personal favorites. This is our first guest episode. We've been talking about it for a while. Let's have a guest on. What's that going to kind of look like? So we had spent the week before we recorded it, we had spent the evening with our guest Orion from the band Flavortown. He helped us make some music on a PS2. We played Music Generator 3, and then we played EJ Club World, which was amazing. We had a very silly, long evening making a song, and then we recorded the next week and talked about it, and it was amazing. He was really the best choice for a crazy idea of an episode like this, where we made something.
Yeah,
and
it
were
was
able to
completely
present it.
unlike anything we had done up until this point.
Yeah, it was completely different. And he may have tried to dox us immediately. Thankfully, we had to bleep that out, but he was a champ. Really handled being our kind of test guinea pig on a guest episode, handled that well. And thanks to him, we made a goofy song that's still amazing to listen to. So big thanks to Orion. Go check out his band Flavortown.
Links below.
Links below, of course. And now here we're gonna make you listen to our beautiful song that we made in EJ Club World again, called what was it called?
It was
Cox's Journey by Sexy Lady.
there we go. Cox's Journey by Sexy Lady.
Yep. So here's Cox's Journey by Sexy Lady.
Let's talk about some news and hiccups, though, in episode 12 and 13. In 12, we talked about the State of Play that was released by Sony and everything that they announced within that, and some new Pokemon news that had dropped during that time. We jumped straight on all that. We had a bunch to say. But episode 13 is kind of where the hiccup happened. Episode 13 wasn't supposed to happen. We were running way behind schedule. I mean, like, it was rough. I think we were sitting here finishing up episode 12, and you're like, hey, about that, we got to get 13 also done. We're running out of time. Because I think we're editing 12, and like that popped up, and I had just remembered that, hey, I bought a game from the store not too long ago. It's kind of this weird arcade game. Do you want to sit down and just jam through it with me real fast?
And we did. We played Assault Suit Lenos.
And we pretty much platinumed it.
Yeah, pretty much. That was a ton of fun. That was another one where it was kind of something neither of us had played. That's where, honestly, I find the most enjoyment doing the podcast is playing something that neither of us had played. Where we're both taking a fresh look at something that maybe we've seen or heard or knew about, but haven't actually gotten hands-on experience. But Lenos was fun.
It turned out to be an amazing game.
Retro
with
arcade,
a huge,
classic.
just a giant history to it.
Yeah, an insane amount of history.
You know, for a game that's 12 levels or something?
Yeah, it's 10 levels, something like that. Minimal story, yeah, insane history behind the whole franchise, though.
You know, it's kind of interesting. A lot of people that I talk to when, I say, hey, I do a podcast, are like, oh, what are you talking about? I go, well, we have a thing called a backlog list, and what we say whether or not you should really go out and play it, or what if it's good. And they're like, oh, if it's called the backlog, do you just play good games? And I'm like, no,
not a chance, my friend.
If a game sucks, we'll say this does not belong on the backlog,
or we'll say it does as a joke.
Yeah, Shaq Fu was
drink with your buddies and point and laugh at it, right?
Yeah.
So
soon to come up will be games where we go, don't do it. Don't go anywhere near it.
It's not worth it. Yep. Well, on to episode 14, that was our longest episode where we talked about the Xbox showcase for 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 years, because they showed a billion trillion trailers.
Now, obviously, as of recording, we have no idea how long this episode will be, but as of right now, it is the longest episode on the catalog.
Yeah, tons of notes. We watched the whole freaking thing, right? So it was like an hour and a half presentation. So we watched the whole thing. We took notes on the whole thing. We wrote stuff that we liked, we didn't like, what we thought was a can't miss, kind of watch out for this game in the future, stuff like that. But yeah, it seems like it wouldn't be that crazy of an episode, but it was insane long. We did a lot of
our
work
notes
for that.
are all over the place for both of us.
Yep. Let's get into 15 and 16. Maybe now we know what we're doing. I'm going to steal this one from you quick. We played our first horror game, and as well as we talked about the big God of War news. Fear 2 was great to play through together. We had a ton of fun with that. During the game episodes, when we go and actually play the games, it usually kind of pans out to one of us playing, the other one taking notes, and then we kind of switch back and forth between that. But for some games, one of us can end up kind of like the dedicated detective. And Alex, you were the detective for this. You were kind of looking up we need to turn around here and find the note and find all the lore bits. So
yeah, when we play games for the podcast, we unfortunately don't have the luxury of being able to sit down and play the game front to back. However, we do play it through usually a good amount of the game, and sometimes when we're trying to like really get through a game and like find certain aspects, maybe some secrets that we want to talk about, walkthroughs can be a real friend in those times. But when we start getting into games that are in like the 360 era that maybe could have even been in like the original Xbox era, Fear kind of sits in that weird place where the story definitely could have been an original Xbox game, but the gameplay might have, definitely should be in 360 library. That you get like these weird notes that people take where it's all in like ASCII and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and you just have to like figure it out.
Game facts, absolutely. Yeah.
So it can be tricky at times, but I want to talk about something else that's tricky. That'd be episodes 17 and 18, because those were tricky but amazing. Because we did it, folks. We finally caved. And we talked about Smash.
If we must talk about Smash.
We always talk about Smash.
Well, like I said, if we must, we must.
This is by far one of the best episodes we got to play for. Honestly, we were just messing around playing in Melee. It's kind of hard not to just sit down and have fun when you put Smash on and
fun.
Have friends.
You know what is bullshit, though?
What's that?
Those target tests, man.
Oh, those are rough.
Smash the targets, not a chance.
The best moment of episode 18, though, was just pissing Josh off royally. It was truly a laugh out loud moment.
What'd you piss me off about, though? What do I have to be pissed off about?
Let me tell you, it's about the greatest thing that's been coming out in the mini console era, and that is a Sega Genesis Mini 2.
I'm gonna buy one and record myself smashing it with a big hammer or something. I'm gonna go buy a Genesis Mini 2 and a sledgehammer.
I literally think in the episode we talked to you about it, you're like, I'm gonna buy one and destroy it.
Sega Genesis Mini 2 releases in October with Sega CD games and 50 new titles total.
Heck yeah, Genesis! I'm a big Sega guy.
Who wanted this?
I did. I wanted this.
Okay, what, and nobody else? I'm confused about where this game... Okay, Nintendo made an NES Classic. Made a ton of money. What did they do? They made a SNES Classic. They did not make a SNES Classic. They did not make an NES Classic 2 with like Solomon's Key 2 on it, okay? They were like, okay, well that did good. We're going to move on to the next one.
Yeah, but now like they're probably checking into like the N64 Classic.
Understand this.
I mean, they're doing that with the Switch right now.
I would buy an NES Classic 2. I would buy a SNES Classic 2.
I would buy a Genesis Classic
I know.
Mini
You're
2.
I know you're a Sega guy. I'm not. I'm just saying, like, if PlayStation was like, here's a PlayStation Classic 2, I'd be like, what? Like, just like, you don't release imagine you came out, you're president, Mr. Sega. You made a Sega Genesis. Now you're like, what if I released a sequel to the Genesis, and it was called the Genesis 2? And you're going to be like, that happened because there's, like, 3 generations.
I was going to say, like, it's called Model 2.
There's 3 generations of the Genesis. But, like, imagine he released a different console that only played the sequel game. Like, he made, like, the Wii and the Wii U, right? It was like, okay, here's this. It's kind of the same thing. It's slightly different, but it's not. Like, this is literally just like, we put more game. Why not just send everybody a USB stick? It just, this whole thing is confusing. It really frustrates me. Okay, the Genesis Classic Comes with like 40 games or 30 games,
Yep.
whatever, right? Don't make a second one that I have to buy and also plug in and set up to my TV.
But it's like more powerful or something.
Send me a USB stick and say this has 50 more games on it. Plug it in. Make a Sega CD classic that the original sits on.
It already has that though.
It connects into the Sega CD.
It doesn't do that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so the Sega Genesis 2 should just be the Sega CD portion. Connect your original Genesis Mini to the Sega CD Mini, and then you have like a full setup. And then we'll get, what's the stupid thing you have? The CDX or whatever? The tower? Not the
32X.
So you got the 32X. You have something else.
Yeah, so, alright. The original Mini had the Tower of Power.
Yes.
Which is the Master System base converter, the 32X add-on, the Sonic and Knuckles cart, and then the Sonic game on top of that, on top of the Model 1 Sega CD. And they call it the Tower of Power.
Yeah, you could build this Tower of Babel console like an affront to God, and all we know is that it's holy, okay?
Yeah,
just
Sega!
When you release a sequel to the console, just give me another piece of the Tower of Power, so then once we hit the Sega Genesis Mini 6, and I own every Genesis game digitally, I can just have this monstrosity, like a little statuette of the freaking tower of this monstrous Sega Genesis beast. And people are like, what the hell is that thing? And I'm like, it's digitally every Genesis and CD game that they ever made.
You're just like, it's a memoir to my mistakes.
Yeah, and each one cost me $200, and yes, I'm proud to say that. The whole concept seems really stupid.
That would hit a little too close to home.
I just don't like that. If you own the first one, you're gonna have to own a second one, and you'll have to turn one on to play one game, and you'll have to turn one on to play, like, just get a Raspberry Pi at that. But this whole process really pisses me off. You read this to me, and I was irrationally angry. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
I was so jazzed for it.
Okay, David Cage's Detroit Become Human is getting a manga called Detroit Become Human Tokyo Stories. Kawaii Des. That's what I don't know. That's what I got. I'm still pissed.
Kawaii Desu!
I'm still pissed off about this Genesis Mini, man. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you just can't move on.
We should have put that. I didn't realize how he was going to, but I should put that one at the end. Man, stupid console. Yeah, let's move on to episode 19 and 20. I'm calm now. I'm calm after all that Genesis Mini. I'm calm. We played our first handheld game, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, the first one. This is what Challenge play. Normally we play stuff on the big TV. DS stuff, we do not have a way to play that on the TV. So it's kind of, you were playing on the DS. I think that was when we started doing Tony Hawk stuff. So I think like that was the switch, was like you'd play Ace Attorney, I would play Tony Hawk. We kind of switched there. Eventually, back home, I just wound up buying the PS4, the trilogy on PS4. So I played the first game kind of digitally and went through that on my, I get home from work, play some Ace Attorney, and that was a first. So two kind of first here, us playing a DS game, and then us kind of playing games separately.
Yeah, it's not something that we try to do.
It
Playing
happens
together
sometimes,
is
yeah.
always kind of the best, because then we get a good, aspect of like our reactions together.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, hey, we're adults that have full-time jobs, and sometimes stuff doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm. There are definitely times where if we can't play a game, if we're playing we play Persona 5 or something, right? There's no way we'll be able to experience all of that in 3 hours. So that's one of those things where, we'll do outside research, and, we'll be texting back and forth saying, hey, I'm going to do research about this aspect of the game, and hey, I'm going to blah, 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 So we'll do independent research sometimes and bring that to the table.
Look, I don't need 3 hours to experience Persona 5. I have 169 hours into it already.
Hey, well, not all of us have 169 hours to put into Persona 5. So, and then episode 19, we had another skit within the whole episode there, and that was a blast to record and take different takes on. I know Alex spent a lot of time working on the distortion to make us sound like we were in the like Game Boy Advance sound chip style, like pixelated voices. Flyers, distortion, waveform manipulation, all tricks of the trade. How far we've come in only 19 episodes.
Yeah,
right?
compared, this is just 14 episodes later. This is 14 weeks. That's all it was.
Yep. We knew then what we know now.
It's crazy how far you can go when you really are just like, hey, we have to get this done. Hey,
Yeah.
I want to do this. Hey, I want to do that.
We make it work. And then Alex learned about Evo. He didn't know what Evo was. Showed him the Daigo Berry, the best
It blew me away.
Evo moment number 10 or whatever, the best Evo moment to ever exist.
Oh, it was so cool.
It is really so cool.
And hey, guess what? We're finally getting into some other things in episode 21 and 22. That's right. We're talking about NES games now. We had tried so hard to hold off, and then we're just like, we gotta.
We're going back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass, as some might say.
So in episode 21, we finally play our first NES game, Solomon's Key. That's right. We have avoided it up until the 21st episode.
We did not want to play NES stuff.
Oh man,
if
NES
you
games
ever
are
say-
not bad. They're just difficult to get progressively.
I don't mind playing
through
NES
on.
games. I don't mind playing NES games, but if you're like, hey, let's play this 2600 game, I'll be like, no. We're not going to play that because they suck.
Oh, come on. 2600 games are not that bad. There's definitely bad ones.
Name a good one.
Demon Attack.
Name another good one.
Pitfall.
Name another good one.
Bro, what is this? An interrogation?
I'll name it. It's Circus. Circus is fun. So you're on the
Circus.
seesaw and you got to land the guy on the seesaw.
Combat's really good.
Combat, that's the tanks, yeah.
Yeah, it's tanks.
Combat's good. Yeah. There's some...
Hero's good.
Okay, they're fine, but it's also you play them for 10 minutes and you're like, that's the whole game.
It's a 2600. For people that don't know what we're referencing, it's the Atari 2600 that was put out in the late 70s.
I'm just saying, okay, if you're like, hey Josh, do you want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake or Adventure on the 2600? I feel like the answer's pretty clear.
Yeah, it's going to be Adventure on the 2600.
Incorrect.
We chose to start with Solomon's Key. Awesome game. Use the save state if you're going to play that game. And go break some orange blocks.
What's this, Mr. Pureblood telling me 2600 games are better than now? He's like, yeah, go use save states if you want.
I would use a save state on a 2600 game. It's kind of pointless since they're 10 minutes. But...
Yeah, beat it in 30 minutes.
Episode 22 was the last news episode, and it was super short. Why? You're kind of wondering why, maybe? Well, the truth of the matter is that there's just not a ton of news out there, and we were running behind again.
Sometimes there's news, sometimes there isn't, and then also sometimes we're like, who cares about finding another news piece? Maybe we should just work on the things that are coming up soon that we need to get working on.
Yeah, our big projects, right?
Yep.
It always astounds me as well as that, no matter how far behind we get, we somehow pull it together and, get an episode
Yeah,
out.
we're, down to the wire. This is currently being recorded at, 10 p.m., and we're going to record another episode after this, so it's kind of, sometimes the crunch is real, but that's okay.
Sometimes the crunch is real, but,
Devotion,
proud of
baby.
ourselves for getting
Yeah,
this far, right?
It's devotion, baby.
And then, let's talk about our most current episode.
Oh, yeah, episode 23. It's our last guest of the season, your close friend Mario Alex. Made his debut on the podcast for nothing else than a classic Mario game. Great having him on, being able to kind of pick his brain. Again, obviously Mario Alex, huge Mario guy. Kind of talk to him about why he likes, this is his favorite Mario game, what he likes about it so much.
Every time I go to his house, it just astounds me how much Mario stuff there is.
Yeah, hit him with some Mario trivia, some tough questions about what enemies
Man,
look like.
you chose some tough ones.
I chose the hardest ones on purpose. That was the whole premise. What was it? Pile Driver Micro Goomba? Great name for an enemy. We had another awesome skit where, again, same thing. Normal Alex is like, let's play this game. I'm like, no way, we're going to play. I don't remember what I said. I was going to play something stupid.
Snoopy Silly.
Oh, Snoopy's Olympic. There's the Snoopy Sports. Snoopy's.
Yeah, Snoopy Silly Sports. There.
Yeah, Snoopy's Silly Sports, which Mario Alex says is the worst game ever created. And I'm like, we're going to play Snoopy Silly Sports. Mario Alex is like, hi, I'm here, and we're not going to do that. We're going to play Mario 3 instead. And I'm like, no, we're not. And he's like, yeah, we are. And then we did. So.
And then you guys just proceed to roast me for an hour.
Hey, look, man. Next time we'll bring Kyle on or something, and you guys can just roast me for an hour instead.
That sounds great. I would love that.
I could bring my wife on, and then I'd just get roasted for the whole time. So. And that brings us to present day, current era.
Right now, right here, this moment.
Yeah, and we've got one final episode for the season going up next week. And then we've got our big seasonal projects for the rest of the year. And just looking back on, obviously the whole podcast has been a huge undertaking, right? Dedication, learning, moment by moment for both of us, kind of figuring out how to do this. We started off, we were just two friends, and we're like, hey, let's do this. Talk about video games, something we both obviously enjoy, and now we have this time capsule to show for it. Until Keanu Reeves shows up in like a Day the Earth Stood Still situation, all the electronics get shut off, and it's all lost to time, but that's okay.
I would cry at that point. So much of my life gone.
It'd be okay. We'd get the like hamster wheel.
There you go.
Ride the bike to power the engines to make
Just get a bunch of potatoes.
Exactly. Lemon batteries. But yeah, it's definitely always fun hanging out and getting to record the podcast. If the hour's going to have to be long, expand our gaming comfort zone and find new stuff to play. Getting big, right? Like hitting top of the charts, right?
Yeah, gain those 100,000 subscribers.
It's slow going. It always is, right? You got to build up piece by piece, day by day. What I think Solomon's Key is up to like 40 views, which is like insane. Normally our views are like 5 to 10, and I'm like, good enough. Hitting almost like 4 times that, it's like insane. So yeah, it's not something we're like aiming for. Where it's not like every day I come in and I'm like, we need more views, right? But it's always something we're thinking about.
It's definitely more of a passion project right now. It's something that we both really enjoy doing and have a ton of fun with.
Yeah,
and I really think it's really what it should be.
If it turns, if it turns into a lucrative business opportunity, that's great. And we'd both love to turn it into that. Obviously, things take time, and we're not worried about it right now.
Yeah, we're taking it slowly. There's talks of next season actually getting like some cameras involved.
Next season, potentially video work. Big guest. I think we got Kojima in the works.
Yeah. We're just going to get Hideo Kojima on here for kicks.
I think, and a lot of people aren't expecting this. Feels a little left field, but Iron Chef Bobby Flay.
Man.
We're sending a couple emails. We're going to get him on. No, but yeah, some big stuff coming up. I mean, even just in the next coming months, you're going to see some kind of big changes for the podcast. So that should be exciting. This is what it really breaks down to here. We want to thank all our friends and family who helped build the channel and continue to support us, have admiration and believe in the podcast, believe in the vision that we have here. And thank you not even just to them, but obviously to all of you listening at home, on your drive, wherever you may be listening to this. We appreciate it. We thank you for spending your evenings with us, weekends, mornings, days, nights, noons, what have you.
Twilight hours,
golden hours. 5 o'clock somewheres, Thank you for spending your time with us and listening to two dudes just talk about video games and sometimes not know what they're talking about at all. It hasn't always been an easy road, but we're glad to be where we are currently, and we're gonna keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it, as Mr. Joe Dirt would say.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we plan on continuing to make more content and having fun. We hope everyone will continue to support us and listen and enjoy the things we put out into the world. One final thing, though, before we go.
Oh, to the teaser. Spider-Man will return. In Captain America Civil War.
Our next episode will be episode 25, and we will be in the place you see in your dreams. Silent Hill 2.
We're going to shoot Pyramid Head with a gun 50 times until he walks into a submerged basement and disappears and unlocks the next part of the map for you.
Oh, God, so good. But thank you for listening to this. We hope that this gives some insight into, not only what we do on our weekly basis, but maybe you want to start a podcast for yourself. This should, give you an idea of what it actually looks like and the time it takes.
The main thing, the takeaway from this, I would say, is if you want to start a podcast, you don't need tons of expensive equipment like we have. I mean, literally, first couple episodes, we just had a microphone. That was it, right? You just need a dream, and the time to achieve it. So,
getting this far has been great, but, we meet together once a week. Sometimes more than that. We put in the dedication and the time, and that's all you really need. Is if you have dedication, time, and the ideas to keep going, you can do this.
And you'll see that coming up. Again, I know we keep teasing our future projects here, but the next coming months, I think you're going to see a lot of this effort and dedication really put forward. We've been working hard since next week is going to be the last normal episode, and then there's going to be a break after that.
Yeah, we're taking a week off, guys. Sorry.
We're taking a week off, and then and we'll mention that at the top of next episode too, so everybody knows. But we're going to take that week off, before these big projects coming up. Build some anticipation. Also, just give us some time to actually breathe and work on things. Get them,
Be a normal human being for a while.
yeah, get them tip-top shape. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to be it here for us. I'm Josh.
I'm Alex.
And you have been listening to the Quick Save Podcast. Good night.
Good night. And I had Audacity download to my podcast.
Oh, man. Look, I know it's late, but we got to pull something together here, huh?
Oh, I'm just reaching for straws.